Anna gazed out of the kitchen window, watching the morning sun filter through the trees, casting golden light on their perfectly manicured lawn. The smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, blending with the scent of pancakes sizzling on the stove. It was a typical Saturday morning in the home she shared with her husband, Michael. From the outside, they had everything: successful careers, a beautiful house, and a love story that had once been the envy of everyone they knew. But lately, something had shifted. Anna could feel it deep in her bones. The connection that once defined their relationship had slowly faded. Conversations that used to flow easily now felt stilted. Michael had become distant, emotionally detached, as if he were a stranger in his own home. She remembered the early years of their marriage, the way Michael would wake her up with a kiss, how they would laugh together about the silliest things. Now, they barely spoke about anything that mattered. Michael's long hours at work had become the excuse for everything. He was always busy, always distracted. Anna had tried to dismiss her growing concerns, convincing herself that it was just a phase. Every marriage had its ups and downs, right? Yet, something in her heart whispered otherwise. This morning, as she set the breakfast table, she glanced at her phone. Michael had already texted her that he wouldn't be coming home for lunch as planned. Another work emergency. Anna sighed, a knot of frustration tightening in her chest. He'd been using work as an excuse for months now, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Her best friend, Rachel, had suggested she confront Michael directly, but Anna hesitated. What if it was all in her head? What if she accused him of something he wasn't guilty of, only to drive a wedge deeper into their marriage? She shook off the unsettling thoughts, forcing a smile as she sat down at the table alone. But even as she tried to enjoy the quiet morning, her mind couldn't escape the lingering fear that her perfect life was beginning to unravel. Days passed, and Anna's unease grew more pronounced. She tried to focus on her job at the marketing firm where she was a senior executive, but her mind constantly wandered back to Michael. She noticed small changes: how he would guard his phone more closely, how he'd become more secretive about his whereabouts, how their conversations had become more superficial. When he was home, it was as if a wall stood between them. They shared the same space, but their emotional distance was palpable. One evening, while Michael was in the shower, Anna sat in the living room, staring at the flickering images on the television without really seeing them. Her mind raced with 1,000 unanswered questions. She hadn't voiced her suspicions, but they gnawed at her relentlessly. As she tidied up the room, her hand brushed against Michael's jacket draped over the arm of the couch. Without thinking, she reached into the pocket, hoping to find his wallet or something benign. But instead, her fingers touched something cold and unfamiliar: a bracelet. It wasn't hers. A small, delicate silver bracelet with a tiny heart charm. Anna's heart skipped a beat. She stared at the piece of jewelry, feeling the ground shift beneath her feet. The bracelet was unmistakably feminine, something that clearly didn't belong to her. A flurry of emotions surged through her: confusion, fear, and the first stirrings of betrayal. Her mind raced, searching for rational explanations. Maybe it belonged to a coworker? Maybe someone at the office had left it behind, and Michael had taken it by accident? But deep down, she knew better. The weight of the bracelet in her hand felt heavy with the truth she didn't want to face. When Michael returned from his shower, she hid the bracelet in her pocket, watching him closely as he casually flipped through the channels. His nonchalance only fueled her suspicions. How long had this been going on? What was he hiding? And more importantly, who was he hiding? That night, Anna lay awake, her mind spiraling with questions and doubts. The man she had trusted with her heart, her life, might be betraying her. The thought was unbearable, but the evidence was there. A small piece of silver that could unravel everything. Anna could only keep the secret for so long. The weight of the bracelet in her purse was a constant reminder of the unspoken truth hanging over their marriage. She spent the next few days in a state of heightened anxiety, jumping at every phone notification, watching Michael more closely, hoping for any sign that might confirm or dispel her fears. But Michael remained oblivious to her turmoil. He carried on with his routine as if everything was fine: work meetings, late-night phone calls, and his increasing absences. Anna had become an expert at hiding her suspicions, but it was becoming too much to bear. One evening, after another day of unanswered calls and a last-minute work emergency that had kept Michael out late, Anna reached her breaking point. She couldn't live with the uncertainty any longer. As soon as he walked through the door, she stood in the kitchen, her arms crossed, the bracelet laid out on the counter in front of her. Her heart pounded in her chest, and her voice wavered slightly as she spoke. "Michael, we need to talk." He froze, his hands still on the doorknob, his eyes flicking to the bracelet immediately. For the briefest moment, Anna saw something flash in his expression: panic. He quickly masked it with his usual calm demeanor, but she had seen enough. "What's going on?" he asked, walking into the room, but his voice lacked the casual warmth it once held. Anna's throat tightened. She fought to keep her composure. "This was in your jacket," she said, gesturing to the bracelet. "It's not mine. So whose is it?" Michael's face hardened. For a moment, he said nothing, as if he were weighing his options, deciding whether to lie or tell the truth. Finally, he sighed, rubbing the back of his neck as he sat down at the kitchen table. "It's not what you think, Anna." Her heart sank. Those words, the classic, cliched denial, offered her no comfort. "Then what is it?" she demanded, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and hurt. Michael took a deep breath, staring down at his hands. "It's Rebecca's, my assistant. She left it in my car after a work event. That's all." Anna's eyes narrowed. "And you didn't think to mention it? You didn't think I'd find it and start asking questions?" "I didn't want to worry you," he said quickly, his tone defensive. "There's nothing going on, Anna. It's just a misunderstanding." But Anna wasn't convinced. The bracelet was more than just a forgotten piece of jewelry. It was a symbol of the growing distance between them, the secrets Michael was keeping, and his evasive answers only fueled her doubts. "Michael, I need the truth," she said, her voice cracking under the weight of her emotions. "I feel like I'm losing you. You're never home. You're always distracted, and now this? I can't keep pretending everything is okay." For a moment, silence hung in the air, thick with tension. Michael looked at her, his expression unreadable, and in that moment, Anna realized something. He wasn't going to give her the truth. Whether or not there was more to the story, he had already betrayed her trust by hiding things, by letting their relationship deteriorate without addressing it. Without another word, Anna turned and walked out of the kitchen, her heart heavy with the knowledge that the life they had built was starting to crumble. Anna couldn't let it go. Over the next few weeks, her doubts consumed her. Michael's behavior didn't change. If anything, he became more distant, more elusive. The seeds of suspicion that had been planted with the discovery of the bracelet had taken root, growing into something she could no longer ignore. One evening, when Michael told her he'd be working late again, Anna decided to follow him. She knew it was wrong, that it was a breach of trust in itself, but she needed answers. The uncertainty was eating her alive. As she drove through the city, keeping a safe distance behind his car, her heart pounded in her chest. What was she doing? What if she was wrong? What if he really was working, and she was just spiraling into paranoia? But when Michael's car pulled into the parking lot of a fancy downtown hotel, Anna's worst fears were confirmed. She watched from a distance as he exited the car and met a woman near the entrance, a woman Anna recognized all too well. Rebecca. Her heart shattered in that moment. There was no more denying it, no more rationalizing his behavior. The man she had loved and trusted for over a decade was having an affair. She watched as they walked inside together, their body language comfortable, familiar. It was clear this wasn't the first time. Anna felt like she was suffocating. The betrayal was more than just a breach of trust. It was a complete destruction of the life they had built together. Everything she thought she knew about her marriage, about Michael, had been a lie. Tears blurred her vision as she drove home, her mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. How could he do this to her? How long had this been going on? And most importantly, what was she going to do now? By the time she reached their house, Anna felt numb. The life she had known was over, and she had no idea how to pick up the pieces. Anna spent the next few days in a haze of grief and disbelief. The image of Michael and Rebecca together haunted her, replaying in her mind like a broken record. She couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and could barely focus at work. The weight of his betrayal was suffocating. One evening, unable to stand the silence in the house any longer, she decided it was time to confront Michael again, this time with everything laid bare. She waited for him to come home, sitting at the kitchen table, her hands trembling as she rehearsed what she would say. When Michael finally walked through the door, looking tired and distracted, Anna took a deep breath and stood up. "We need to talk. Now." He stopped in his tracks, glancing at her with a mixture of surprise and wariness. "Anna, what's this about? I've had a long day. Can we?" "No, we can't." Her voice was firm, though her heart was racing. She had to do this. She had to know the truth, once and for all. "I know about Rebecca. I followed you." The color drained from Michael's face, and for a moment, he said nothing. The air between them crackled with tension, the unspoken truth finally surfacing. He looked down at the floor, unable to meet her gaze. "I can explain," he muttered, his voice hollow. "Explain what?" Anna's voice cracked with pain. "Explain why you've been lying to me for months? Why you've been sneaking around behind my back with your assistant? What is there to explain, Michael? I saw you with her. I know." Michael ran a hand through his hair, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," he said quietly. "It just happened." Anna's heart clenched. "It just happened?" she repeated, her voice rising in disbelief. "You're telling me you accidentally fell into an affair with her? That's your excuse?" Michael flinched, clearly unprepared for the raw anger in her voice. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," he said, his words stumbling. "It started out as nothing, just a little flirting, then it became more, and before I knew it, I was in too deep. But it didn't mean anything, Anna. It's not. It didn't mean anything?" Anna interrupted, tears stinging her eyes. "You've destroyed our marriage, and you're telling me it didn't mean anything? Do you even hear yourself?" Michael finally met her gaze, his eyes filled with guilt and regret. But Anna could see that whatever remorse he felt was too little, too late. The damage had been done, and there was no undoing it. "I never wanted to hurt you," he whispered. Anna let out a bitter laugh. "Well, congratulations, Michael. You've hurt me more than I ever thought possible." For a long moment, they stood in silence, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between them. Anna wiped at her tears, her chest aching with the finality of it all. "I want you to leave," she said quietly. "I can't do this anymore. I need time. I need space, and I need you out of this house." Michael looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. He nodded, his expression filled with sorrow. "I'll pack some things and stay at a hotel for now." As he turned to leave, Anna felt a pang of sadness, not for the man he had become, but for the life they had once shared. She had loved him with all her heart, and now it was over. The man she thought she knew was gone, replaced by a stranger who had betrayed her in the worst possible way. As the door closed behind him, Anna collapsed onto the couch, sobbing into her hands. The weight of everything that had happened hit her all at once, and for the first time, she truly let herself grieve the loss of her marriage. The days following Michael's departure were some of the hardest Anna had ever faced. The house felt empty, like a hollow shell of what it once was, filled only with memories of a life that no longer existed. Everywhere she turned, she was reminded of him. Their wedding photo on the mantle, the framed picture from their last vacation, the gifts he had given her over the years. She considered packing everything up, throwing it all away in a desperate attempt to erase him from her life. But every time she reached for something, she hesitated, unable to part with the memories just yet. It was too soon, the wounds too fresh. Anna decided to take a leave of absence from work. She couldn't focus on her job, and she didn't want to deal with the concerned looks and whispered questions from her colleagues. Instead, she spent her days in solitude, trying to figure out how to move forward. Rachel, her best friend, came over frequently, bringing food and company, trying to lift her spirits. But even Rachel's efforts couldn't pull Anna out of the dark cloud of grief that hung over her. "It's going to take time," Rachel said one evening as they sat on the couch, sipping wine, "but you'll get through this. You're stronger than you think." Anna wanted to believe her. She wanted to believe that she would come out of this stronger, that there was light at the end of the tunnel. But right now, all she could see was the wreckage of her life, and she didn't know how to rebuild. One day, while sorting through some old boxes in the attic, Anna stumbled across her old painting supplies. She hadn't painted in years. Life had gotten too busy, and she had pushed aside her creative passions to focus on her career and marriage. But seeing the paints and brushes brought back memories of a time when she had felt truly free, when she had been able to express herself through art. Without thinking, Anna set up an easel in the living room and began to paint. At first, the strokes were hesitant, awkward, as if she had forgotten how to let go. But as the hours passed, something shifted. The brush moved more fluidly, the colors blending together in a way that felt cathartic, like a release of all the pain and anger she had been holding inside. By the time she finished, the canvas was filled with vibrant, swirling colors, an abstract representation of the emotional storm she had been navigating. For the first time in weeks, she felt a sense of peace. Painting became her escape, her therapy. Every day, she poured her emotions onto the canvas, creating pieces that reflected her journey from heartbreak to healing. It wasn't an overnight transformation. Some days were harder than others, but slowly, she began to feel like herself again. Months passed, and life slowly returned to a new normal. Anna had found a rhythm, focusing on her art, spending time with Rachel, and even going back to work part-time. The pain of Michael's betrayal was still there, but it had dulled, becoming a distant ache rather than an open wound. One afternoon, while at a local cafe, Anna met someone new. His name was Lucas, and he was a quiet, thoughtful man who worked as a graphic designer. They struck up a conversation while waiting for their coffee, bonding over their shared love of art and creativity. At first, Anna was cautious. The idea of letting someone new into her life, of opening her heart again, felt terrifying. But there was something about Lucas that put her at ease. He wasn't pushy or overly flirtatious. He was kind, patient, and genuinely interested in getting to know her. They began meeting for coffee regularly, their conversations flowing easily. Lucas had a calm presence that made Anna feel safe, like she could be herself without fear of judgment or pressure. He didn't pry into her past, didn't push her to talk about Michael or the pain she had been through. Instead, he offered her friendship, companionship, and the quiet support she hadn't realized she needed. As their friendship deepened, Anna found herself looking forward to their meetings. For the first time since the end of her marriage, she felt a spark of hope, a sense that maybe, just maybe, she could find happiness again. Anna and Lucas's relationship developed slowly, naturally, without the rush or intensity of her past relationships. They spent time together painting, attending art shows, and exploring the city's hidden gems. There were no grand gestures, no sweeping declarations of love, just two people enjoying each other's company, healing from their own wounds in quiet companionship. As the months went on, Anna began to realize that she had feelings for Lucas. It wasn't the same as what she had felt for Michael. It was softer, more grounded, built on trust and mutual respect. But she was still scared. She had been hurt so deeply before, and the thought of opening her heart again was daunting. One evening, as they sat on a park bench watching the sunset, Lucas turned to her, his expression serious but gentle. "I know you've been through a lot," he said softly, "and I don't want to rush you into anything. But I want you to know that I care about you, Anna. I'm here for you, no matter what." His words touched her deeply. For the first time in a long time, Anna felt safe enough to let her guard down. She smiled, reaching for his hand. "I care about you too, Lucas. I'm not ready for anything serious just yet, but I want to see where this goes." Lucas nodded, his smile warm and understanding. "That's all I need to hear." As they sat there, hand in hand, Watching the sky turn shades of pink and orange, Anna felt a sense of peace. The pain of her past was still there, but it no longer defined her. She had survived the betrayal, the heartbreak, and the loss of her marriage. And now, slowly but surely, she was finding her way back to herself. As Anna and Lucas's relationship slowly blossomed, the wounds of her past began to scab over. She found herself smiling more, laughing at things that would have barely touched her before. She didn't rush into love with Lucas. She wasn't ready for that. Instead, she focused on healing herself, trusting that if love was meant to come, it would come in its own time. But life wasn't done testing her just yet. One evening, out of the blue, Michael called. Anna stared at her phone, her heart skipping a beat. She hadn't heard from him in months, not since he moved out and signed the divorce papers. She hesitated, her finger hovering over the decline button. But curiosity won over, and she answered. "Anna." Michael's voice was soft, hesitant, like he wasn't sure how to begin. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I've been thinking about us, about everything that happened." Anna's heart clenched. She wasn't sure if she was ready for this conversation, but she wasn't the same broken woman he had left behind. "What do you want, Michael?" He let out a deep breath, the tension in his voice palpable. "I made the biggest mistake of my life, Anna. I shouldn't have. I never should have hurt you like that. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know that I regret everything." Anna's grip on the phone tightened. She had spent so long blaming herself for the collapse of their marriage, but now, hearing the guilt in Michael's voice, she realized that it wasn't her fault. His infidelity was his choice, and the pain he had caused was on him, not her. "I don't know what you expect me to say," Anna replied, her voice steady. "You hurt me, Michael. You destroyed our marriage, and I've been picking up the pieces ever since. Do you think saying sorry will fix that?" "I don't," Michael admitted. I needed to tell you. I've been miserable without you. Rebecca, she was a mistake. I thought I wanted something different, something exciting, but all I did was ruin the best thing that ever happened to me." Anna closed her eyes, the old wounds stirring. "It's too late, Michael," she said, her voice soft but firm. "We're over. I've moved on, and you need to do the same." There was a long silence on the other end, and when Michael finally spoke, his voice was thick with regret. "I understand. I hope one day you can forgive me." Anna didn't respond. She hung up the phone, her hand trembling slightly. The conversation had dredged up old emotions, but instead of the overwhelming grief she had once felt, there was a quiet sense of closure. She had been waiting for that apology, that admission of guilt, and now that she had it, she realized she no longer needed it to move forward. She sat back, exhaling a long breath. Michael's words lingered in the air, but they didn't sting as much as they once would have. She was stronger now, stronger than she had ever been, and for the first time, she felt truly free. The months passed, and Anna continued to rebuild her life piece by piece. Her relationship with Lucas deepened, though they both took things slowly, respecting the space she still needed. Lucas never pushed, never demanded more than what she was willing to give, and that patience made her fall for him in a way that was different from what she had felt with Michael. More grounded, more real. Anna had also reconnected with her art in a profound way. What had started as a form of therapy had evolved into a passion, one that was now shaping her future. She had begun exhibiting her work at local galleries, and the response had been overwhelmingly positive. People were drawn to the raw emotion in her pieces, the pain, the healing, the journey of self-discovery. One evening, as she and Lucas walked through the city, hand in hand, he turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "You know," he said, "I've been thinking, have you ever considered doing an art show? Like, a full exhibition of your work?" Anna blinked, caught off guard. "An exhibition? I don't know, Lucas. I mean, my work is personal. It's raw, and it's all tied to everything that's happened." "Exactly," Lucas said gently. "That's what makes it so powerful. You've been through something most people can't even imagine, and your art reflects that. It's your story, Anna, and I think people need to see it." Anna was silent for a moment, considering his words. The idea of sharing her deepest emotions, her pain and healing, with the world was terrifying, but also liberating. Her art had always been a way to process her emotions, but maybe it could be something more. Maybe it could help others, too. "I'll think about it," she said finally, a small smile tugging at her lips. Lucas squeezed her hand. "No pressure, but I think it could be amazing." As they continued walking, Anna realized how much she had grown. The woman she had been when Michael left was a shadow of who she was now. She had found herself again. Through her art, through Lucas, and most importantly, through her own strength. One afternoon, as she was sorting through her old paintings, she came across a piece she had painted not long after Michael left. It was dark, chaotic, filled with jagged lines and angry strokes of black and red. It was a reflection of her pain at the time, a visual representation of her heartbreak. Next to it, she placed her most recent painting, a soft, swirling blend of blues and greens, calm and peaceful. It was the contrast between the two that struck her. One painting was full of turmoil, the other full of peace. And in that moment, Anna realized just how far she had come. She smiled to herself, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment. She had survived the worst, and now she was thriving. Her past didn't define her, and her future was full of possibility. As she stood there, staring at her work, Lucas walked in, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "You okay?" he asked, pressing a kiss to her temple. Anna leaned back into him, her heart full. "Yeah," she said softly, "I think I'm more than okay." For the first time in a long time, Anna felt at peace, with herself, with her past, and with the future that lay ahead. As the months continued to roll on, Anna became more immersed in her art than ever before. Her paintings were now not only a form of healing, but also a way to connect with others who had experienced heartbreak and betrayal. She had decided to take Lucas's suggestion seriously and was planning her first solo exhibition. It was a daunting and exciting prospect, and it filled her with both nervousness and anticipation. Lucas was there every step of the way, offering his support and encouragement without ever overshadowing her journey. Their relationship remained steady, growing deeper with each passing day. But Anna knew that in order to fully embrace her future, she had to confront one final part of her past, her feelings about Michael and the life they had shared. One day, after much internal debate, Anna decided to meet with Michael. She needed closure, not just for his sake, but for her own. They arranged to meet at a quiet cafe, the same one where she had once met Lucas. As Anna waited, she couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. The woman who had discovered her husband's affair and crumbled under the weight of betrayal was no longer the same person sitting here today. Michael arrived, looking older and wearier than she remembered. There was a heaviness in his eyes, a reflection of the choices he had made. He gave her a tentative smile, clearly unsure of how to approach this moment. "Thank you for meeting with me," Michael said as he sat down. His voice was laced with regret. Anna nodded, feeling an odd sense of detachment. "I think we both need this. It's time to close the chapter for good." For a moment, they sat in silence, the weight of their shared history hanging between them. Then Michael cleared his throat. "I know I've apologized before, but I need you to understand how deeply I regret what I did. I was selfish. I ruined something beautiful. You didn't deserve any of it." Anna listened, but this time, his words didn't sting the way they once had. She had heard it all before, but now, she wasn't seeking his apology to heal. She had already done that on her own. "I appreciate your apology, Michael," she said softly, "but I've realized something. I can't forgive you, but I'll never forget what you did. And that's okay, because I'm not angry anymore. I'm not hurting anymore. I've rebuilt my life, and I've found peace. But we're done. There's no going back." Michael looked down, nodding slowly. "I understand. I've been living with the consequences of my choices, and I'll carry that guilt for the rest of my life. I just hope you find happiness." Anna smiled, not out of malice, but because she already had. "I already have, Michael, and I hope you can find your own peace too." As they parted ways, Anna felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had finally said goodbye to that chapter of her life. Michael was no longer a figure of pain in her heart. He was simply a part of her past, a lesson in resilience and self-worth. The night of Anna's art exhibition finally arrived. The gallery was filled with her paintings, each one telling a part of her story, her journey through pain, betrayal, healing, and self-discovery. The collection was a visual diary of her transformation, and as she walked through the gallery, greeting guests and seeing their reactions, she felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Lucas was by her side, beaming with pride. He had been her rock through all of it, offering love and support without ever trying to take control of her process. Anna knew that what they had was real, built on trust, mutual respect, and a shared understanding of life's complexities. As the evening wore on, Rachel arrived, her face lighting up with excitement as she embraced Anna. "I am so proud of you. This is incredible. Look at all these people admiring your work. You did it, Anna." Anna smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you, or Lucas. You both have been there for me in ways I'll never be able to repay." Rachel waved off her words with a laugh. "You don't have to repay anything. You're thriving, and that's all that matters." As the night progressed, Anna found herself standing in front of her most personal piece, a painting she had created just after her conversation with Michael. It was abstract, yet the colors spoke of resolution and renewal. It was her way of saying goodbye to her old life and embracing the future with open arms. Lucas joined her, slipping his hand into hers as they gazed at the painting together. "You did it," he whispered, his voice filled with admiration. "You've turned your pain into something beautiful." Anna turned to him, her eyes shining with emotion. "I never thought I'd get here, but I did. And I'm so grateful for you, for being patient with me, for giving me space to heal, and for just being here." Lucas smiled, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "You're worth every second of it, Anna." In that moment, Anna knew that she had found something real with Lucas, something that was entirely her own, built on a foundation of mutual understanding and unconditional support. It wasn't about filling a void left by Michael, but about creating a new life with someone who truly saw her for who she was. As the exhibition drew to a close, Lucas led Anna outside into the cool night air. They stood together, gazing up at the stars, feeling the quiet contentment that comes from having survived the storm and emerged stronger on the other side. "Do you think this is it?" Anna asked softly, leaning into Lucas's warmth. "The end of the story?" Lucas chuckled, his arm wrapping around her shoulders. "No, Anna, this is just the beginning." And in her heart, Anna knew he was right. Her story wasn't over. It had only just begun. But this time, she was in control. This time, she was writing the narrative, one where she was the heroine of her own life. There would be challenges, as there always were, but she had learned to trust herself, to rise above the pain, and to find joy in the unexpected twists life threw her way. As Tishi stood together under the stars, Anna felt at peace, truly at peace, for the first time in a long time. The past was behind her, and the future was wide open, full of possibility. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the story. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more delightful stories.